We are back in. Welcome back to Poet and Vuj podcast. We're trying to defeat the algorithm, put out more content. So before our guests come, we're going to actually just talk about things ourselves for a little bit.
Come on.
How you been?
Sorry, people. I know you don't even like us eating on our podcast. I've been good.
How's the Nando's?
Oh, bro. You know when you haven't eaten all day and you have the first meal? Oh.
I've been drinking a lot of coffee in the morning. I wake up and I have a Turkish coffee.
Turkish coffee?
Yeah. Turska kahve.
What's the difference?
Nasha. Srpska. It's a lot stronger. And you do it on a stove. And you put like the ground coffee in and the sugar, and then it rises up to the top. And then you put some more hot water in, and it rises up again. It's basically cook it, and then you have it, and it's strong. It's beautiful.
Man's cooking coffee.
Cooking coffee.
I mean,
so been having that. So I wake up just caffeinated as hell. Probably not good for my brain, but. And I go on meme pages. It's probably not the best way to start your day.
I doubt it.
But so overstimulate my brain and my body. I'm basically a low-level drug addict. Are we all potentially drug addicts these days? Social media. Because it all triggers the same things in the brain. It's crazy.
Doesn't make you a drug addict.
But yeah, because dopamine. It's hitting the dopamine levels in your brain.
Yeah, but I feel like the consumption of drugs makes you a drug addict.
True.
You're an addict. But
an addict. All right, cool. We're an addict.
Man, try brandish everyone the same.
All right, let's put the drug part away.
Mm-hmm.
Addicts.
We all have addictions, man. It's crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
I'm
addicted to my phone.
Serious?
100%.
It's right beside you right now. Like
exactly.
Mine's in another room.
But I think arguably a lot of us are.
Yeah. Now in this day and age, anyway. But it's not. It's different though, because I think. Excuse me. I think some people are addicted to their phone, purely based upon absolutely nothing. There's nothing really going on in there, and they just find themselves going in there. Whereas some people, everything's in there for them. So their calendar's in there, their emails are in there, everything work-wise. It's like they got all the food from there, they got all the Uber from there.
I know.
So that makes it a little bit more different, because if you're accessing various different things, I think, then I don't even look at it as an addiction. I look at it as a necessity. These are the things that you need to do.
I mean, you do that probably. Let's say, you might spend an hour on it then if you're doing necessities like cab. But if you check your screen time, go on.
My phone's on me, it's over there. So
I want to do a test.
Is it?
Check your screen time.
They do it with me all the time.
My average last week was 5 hours a day.
It's not that bad.
Not that bad, but nonetheless, it's still a lot. I remember I checked Mitch's once. 9 hours. What's yours, Callum?
7.
Callum's is 7 hours. I know it's part of our jobs, but finding that balance, I think, can be quite difficult. Because you sleep for 8 hours. So a third of your day is like that. It's wild.
9 hours?
At one point, I don't know what Mitch's is now. Sorry, Mitch.
So you made up Mitch's whole thing. He's going to have to wear glasses very soon.
Expose your screen time. But I've been there before where I'm average like 7 at one point. Do you know what I mean? So it's not exactly that. We're still there. But it can be a very tricky composition. Yeah.
Well, the podcast is back. We could talk about screen time, but
screen time.
This is screen time you're going to be wasting right now listening to us talk about screen time. One of the things I definitely would like to talk about, though, is something you mentioned briefly on comments under. You wanted to do a piece, actually, with it there. I thought that would be nice to just do it
talk
here.
About it here.
And it's Newcastle United. And
the takeover. The Saudi takeover.
And I was wrong. I apologize, because I was like, I don't know if it's going to be that impactful, but I didn't realize the layers.
There's a lot of layers to
this takeover and the amount of things that will happen that will make you go, it's because of the takeover. Now, today, what's the date today? 20th.
Yep.
On the 20th today, we've just found out by mutual consent, Steve Bruce has left.
Yep, gone today.
Which means he's just been fired, and they said to him, let's just do it mutual consent because we don't want you to look bad. He left a very heartwarming statement where he called himself a cabbage head.
He said people call him a cabbage head, and I think it feels like from his statement, Steve Bruce, that he feels like people have just taken a piss out of him all of his career. A lot of it maybe because of the way he looks as well.
His nose is going over there.
It's quite mean, maybe he had an accident or something. But that is the world of football, isn't it? The world in general can be quite mean. And I guess he's never done anything in the major leagues, but he has brought up a lot of teams. Promotions. In terms of championship, he's obviously been a great manager. And it's something that he does well, but...
What's he won as a gaffer?
I don't think he's necessarily won anything in terms of FA Cups. He's not won a Prem.
No way.
But he has won a lot of championships, which means he's promoted a lot of teams. So he's done well in a sort of, I'd say higher tier of football, because championship is probably the same level as a lot of other leagues that are first leagues, like Austrian league. Or do you know what I mean? Like Swiss League.
man's laying down his whole thing. We go to his
I'm
manager.
not playing it down. It's decent.
He's at a couple of clubs though. He's been
but what's he won?
Birmingham City,
That's
Wigan, Sunderland,
Yeah.
Hull City, Aston Villa, Sheffield Wednesday, and Newcastle United.
So yeah, but it's not an illustrious career, but it's a good career, and he's obviously done some good things. But he has become the brunt end of a lot of jokes, being Steve Bruce, and I think a part of it may be his look, which perhaps points at the superficiality of our society. Imagine he was alright, cool. Hypothetically, imagine he was Penger. I think he's cute, but imagine Steve Bruce looked like Pep Guardiola.
I think, nah, man. I think we're just scraping the bottom of the barrel, man.
I disagree.
This guy has not achieved anything. When you don't achieve anything, people tease you, and then they tease you about absolutely everything. Everything. They tease Jose Mourinho for not achieving right now. Anytime that's having a stinker, you get on them and you just make it a lot bigger.
Aye, bro,
If he won the Champions
hear
League,
you.
if he won stuff, there's nothing for you to say. Like with Wenger, when Wenger was doing his thing, there's not much for us to say. Wenger at the time looked like a scarecrow. He still looks like a scarecrow now. Shout out my guy. But towards the back end of his career, when he was doing poorly at Arsenal, people just got on him about anything. So I think Steve Bruce, unfortunately for himself, his playing career and his managerial career, I think that was probably a lot for him to deal with. As a player, you know, he's won the league with Manchester United. He actually invented Fergie time. I think he was the first person to score the goal for Fergie time.
However, to go back to the bottom of the barrel, I believe one time I heard a study that better looking people, in terms of socially, people better looking, who are gauged as better looking, do better in life.
Steve Bruce is doing all right.
No, but you just said he's not a success.
Yeah, as a manager, but in life, that's completely different.
But I don't
things.
know his life. I'm just talking about his manager.
Big man, in his life, he's a manager for a football club. He made it as a footballer. He won Premier Leagues. That's a successful
He
life.
hasn't won Premier Leagues.
He has won Premier Leagues.
For who?
Manchester United. I
He
just told
managed
you.
them.
No, he played. He's
I
not a
mean
player.
a managerial career, not
So
a
I'm saying
playing
to you,
career.
all right, cool. So life is a lot longer than a managerial career. In life, he's successful. If we take a look at one,
in the last 20 years, like no one our age bloody knows that.
yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's still
It's part of his history.
He's still successful in his life,
I'm
irrespective
saying-
of people know it.
I'm just saying sometimes looks can play a part.
I don't think here, man. I just think he's had a stinker. He's had a stinker. He's managed teams. Yeah, he's got them promoted. But in order for you to be an individual that people respect within football, win the league, win, FA Cups, win League Cups, win Champions Leagues, win your...
If he was better looking, I think he would have had a better managerial career. I'm throwing it out there, philosophically. It's a very wild statement, but I'm looking at all the managers right now. Klopp's teeth. Then you got Pep Guardiola. Jose Mourinho. I remember one of my ex-girlfriends telling me Jose Mourinho's sexy.
Okay.
Is maybe his success linked to that? Potentially.
Arsene Wenger is an ugly fucker. God
I
bless
wouldn't
him. I
say
love him.
ugly. But if Arsene Wenger wasn't that successful, the success made
You're
up for it.
changing the argument to suit you. Arsene Wenger's not that good
Alright,
looking.
I
Sir
am.
Alex Ferguson's not that good looking. We can go on with managers that are not that
I
good
think
looking forever.
If you're not good looking
Carlo Ancelotti.
and you're unsuccessful, it's like a double barrel of potentially. It just adds to the results, to the poor results.
I'll tell you what is good looking. Newcastle United's bank account now.
Yes, alright, cool. Yeah, sorry, we totally got distracted. Yes,
His bank account is ridiculous. Me and you have spoken about money in football though so many times, and you know how crazy it is and how how mad it's becoming in football right now. Klopp has come out and complained about more or less Newcastle making getting this takeover. How worrying is it?
Hypocritical.
I
think
hear
a
you.
lot of these clubs have been hypocritical. But this is where the layers come in.
Okay.
I think outwardly, the Saudi government, is known as a very, I think, authoritarian one, and there's a lot of socially, I think, the values in Saudi Arabia are obviously very different to the Western values of this world that we live in. So, there's a lot of links to, I don't know, suppressing of journalists. I think one of the main key points a lot of people keep bringing up is the one journalist that was, I think, assassinated or murdered by the government, or linked to the government. I'm not exactly sure. Forgot his name.
Wow.
So a lot of people are linking, basically, because the takeover, I believe, is a Saudi fund, which is closely linked to the government. So they're trying to say, look, you lot are basically saying this is cool. People are trying to come with the argument that, everybody's sort of accepting this into the Prem now. But I think when you start entering the moral arguments, it's just tough.
I don't.
Because where does the moral line come in? And not obviously it's a horrible thing that happened, but I'm not saying I agree with the Saudi state. But how do you then stop it? All right, cool. How do you then how do you fucking police these things? Because they've taken over and they've obviously done it. You've got obviously all the fans dressing up as Saudis now, all the Geordies, and there's just so many like weird things happening that clash that don't really make sense, but it's also fascinating to look at.
So one of the main things you're saying is that the fact that these guys they're saying the money that's been taken, essentially someone was murdered and we're inviting these individuals.
Yeah, and the state itself as a state is very suppressive suppressive to its people. And minorities, you can't be gay in Saudi Arabia publicly, because I believe I might totally butcher this, but I think it's Wahhabi, the Islamic path of Wahhabism, which I think is a bit more. It's the most strictest part of, I guess, viewing Islam. I might have butchered that. If I have in the comments, let me know. Because you got Shia, Sunni, Wahhabi, and many other ways of viewing the Quran and Islam. So it's a bit more. It's the most, I think, strict one. Now, how do you? Cool, they've taken over now, the club. Personally, the moral argument for me, I don't know how to even analyze it. I think there's so much bad in football across the board that maybe this just highlights how football itself has totally lost its reins on what football is about, which is the game. And so much money has gotten in it that you'd have to then, I think, stop every investor. We should have stopped perhaps, Roman Abramovich. What's his history look like? Then you look at I don't know, who was the last the Qataris with Man City, so Qatar, and you got so many issues there potentially too. How do you now? I think then people coming out and being like, the other owners trying to stop it. You're like, wait a minute, because these guys are that rich now, it's a problem. When you got it, it wasn't a problem.
It wasn't a problem.
And then it's just there's the juxtapositions. I think it's hard to look at from so many of these angles. I don't necessarily think it's right or wrong. I don't know what to.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I can't say I have a opinion which is like, yeah, it's that. I don't know.
To be honest with you, what's so crazy is as much as I do love and I enjoy.
Then you have Mike Ashley. So they took over Mike Ashley, who was seen as like the worst guy in football. So then you're like, how do you analyze this?
What's funny for me though is just the fact that, I mean, love you English. I love the English. I love England, all that. But what I don't like is they never connect the country and football when it's them. So they try and separate all the issues and just isolate it to football. For example, they've made it racism in football. It's not racism in football. It's racism within England. It's got nothing. Football's just
society.
Society in general. Do you know where I'm coming from? But then they center it down to racism in football. But when it's and I'm not. Again, I'm with you. I don't know what to think about the takeover in terms of the moral standpoint. But you're now taking in what Saudi Arabia is doing as a country when it comes to the takeover. But when it's the English people, we just isolate it within one parameter. We don't talk about the restrictions we have in this country as black people or as an ethnic minority. We just go, racism in football, it needs to stop. No, racism in the country needs to stop. But you would never bring that up.
Do you feel like there's restrictions for ethnic minorities here?
Of course.
Would you say so?
100%. It's like an unwritten law that doesn't exist. An unwritten law that's unspoken about. You just know certain times that certain things are not going to be privy to you purely because of the way you look or your ethnic background. But they've restricted it in football. But then when the Saudis have come over, they're talking about everything that's happening in Saudi Arabia. So it's a bit like, for me, I'm just like, you lot, dance abroad. I mean, dance a yard. Dance a yard. Think about your own issues rather than speaking about a takeover and the problems within that country.
There's a lot of
problems here.
I think there's just like hypocrisy across the board.
Do you reckon it's fear? Is it fear that the money that
but then that as well.
Is it just fear?
Yeah, exactly. But then you start looking at like, are these other board, clubs and board members and fans using that because they're scared that now Newcastle's going to become a top club that wins the league? And then there's so many ways to potentially look at it. For me, in terms of, I think the league's already gone. I think elite football is gone. So I'm just here to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Like, bruv, aliens could take over. I'd be like, bro, I couldn't care less. I'd love to see an alien chairman. Do you know what I mean? Like, I proper don't care who takes over anymore. You could have like the army take over. But I'm not surprised. In this day and age with the world we live in, it seems like there's no restrictions really when it comes to money. It seems like anything can really be bought. So,
what does this mean for the Premier League? What does this mean for
it becomes more competitive at the top level? It does. It means even more. We have an English Super League. I would say overall, this is an English Super League now situation. We didn't want a Super League in Europe, but we have it in England
because of the amount of investors that are coming over here.
So much money here, and the last top set. It's not even a top 4, top 5. It's looking like soon it might be a top 6, 7, top 8. It's now arguably a top 10 in a way. Everton have so much money as well. West Ham are improving every day. It just makes, I guess, the top tier of English football the most elite, I'd say, in the world, and so much money in it. But it is tough to analyze, I think. Morally, man, it's tough to... It's wrong what the government does, but it's wrong what a lot of this government does. I just, for me and government don't get along overall. I think from my background, I trust no government and I don't align with no government. So I try to live how I live. And I think in that world, it's so, in a way, detached from me, how rich they are and what they do with their money and their intentions, that I just don't feel a connection to it. And I don't feel an attachment to anything over there, because I just try to enjoy the game. And I think a lot of Newcastle fans, you can see, they're not thinking about anything in terms of Saudi government or what happened in the past. They're just like, I'm going to put my Saudi dress on and
keep it moving.
And we've got our money now. But then it just brings you to the hypocrisy of human nature in general. It's like when it's our interest, it doesn't matter what.
Whereas when it's selfish down to you. You don't even care.
People were talking about 0-hour contracts with Mike Ashley, and it's arguably another misuse of power. And now that the Saudis take it over, it's like, not everyone, of course, but
I do hear you.
Just shows. I don't know. I think it points to just our hypocrisy as humans overall. We all have those sort of blind spots, I think, that we try to ignore as humans, and maybe it's just another blind spot. But at the same time, it raises awareness. So, hey, bro, there's many ways to look at it.
One thing I was always scared of, one thing that was always said in the past, and I was always like, yeah, maybe they're right, was the fact that people were scared of investment in the country because of the impact it would have on English football. So I remember the late 90s, early millennials, people would be like, oh, this club hasn't got no English players coming through. With the introduction of these owners, and I'm not saying it's primarily because of them, I don't know, and obviously the FA would have done a couple of stuff as well.
Yeah.
English football, the young players, it's raised the bar.
It made it hard, but so competitive. Like, English Premier League now, to make it as a ball, the competition is insane.
Because the English players are that much better now. Cole Palmer, the Man City boy, the other day scoring a fantastic goal for Manchester City on his debut in the Champions League. It's showing you English players are really, really, really good now. What does it mean for the English Premier League with someone like Newcastle United coming in and doing a takeover? With the amount of takeovers that are already existing in the Premier League, does that mean English football is going to be completely separated from most other leagues within the world? And be isolated as a super league in itself, like you said.
I would say so, yeah. I would say so, yeah. So much money coming into it. There's no straps outside. Me and Callum said,
you gone?
As when you went off camera, it feels like, because I said earlier, it feels like anything can be bought. And Callum said, maybe it was always like that. It's that now things are just more in our faces.
Jesus Christ.
And that is
true, innit?
Overall, things are just, I think, have been brought to surface in the world right now.
What I don't like about football, especially in England, I'll tell you what, with this takeover, if there's anything, guys, if we can, because there's so many positives to talk about, like, for example, Newcastle United hopefully becoming a club that they were like in 96, 97, which is kind of nice. Bring back the Les Ferdinand, Alan Shearer, Asprilla days. I like that. They had that alcohol brand that was in the middle of there. So I like them. Bring it back. Barcelona 3-3, bring it back. But then, football at that point was very tribal. Very, very tribal, where there was an understanding. Yes, there was bad things about it, but there was a mutual respect for the game where you wanted the game to be appreciated by people that love football. The game's extremely accessible now. Extremely accessible. Your entry point to the game now is just money. Whoever's got the most money can have a point. You don't even need to know anything about football. It's just become more business than anything else. Where does this leave football in the next 10?
Brother, I'm telling you, an alien chairman. Or it's going to go the USA way. T-shirt cannons at half-time. Adverts. When someone's getting substituted, B&Q are going to start sponsor the substitution. The stretcher is going to be sponsored by a privatized NHS. Bruv, I think it's heading that way, just complete commercialization. And maybe Bitcoin. Like, you can buy, like, free Bitcoin. The next person that hit crossbar challenge half-time. You hit the crossbar. I think influencer substitutes. I think every team is going to have an influencer that comes on at half-time, or managers can play the last 10 minutes. 12 against 12.
The killer is, though, players are influencers now.
Sin bins.
I
quite like that. I think football, I want Josh Denzel, last 10, can come on for Arsenal. If he gets injured, he has Poet coming on.
Timsy.
I love football, so I can play for any team. And they start transferring influencers. You know what I mean? Chelsea have Savage Dan playing centre midfield. Specs comes on because he supports everyone as well. For Sunderland, 1 week. I think that football's heading into I think as a society, we're heading into a place where it seems like structure has really just, and we're going to create new structures. But obviously, in chaos comes order. Order, chaos, order. Yin and yang. Or it just... Where though? It's ridiculous. Everything's ridiculous. I think the world's gone ridiculous. So, what do you think? Obviously, I've taken it a comedic way, but...
I love that. I'm scared when it comes to Newcastle for the simple fact, as an Arsenal fan anyway, you begin to look at takeovers in the past. Obviously, Chelsea's takeover, very successful. Manchester City's takeover, successful. Liverpool's takeover, successful. Man United's takeover, so. There were the early days of the Glazers. I'm sure they won stuff under Alex Ferguson and so on and so forth. It's not been so great, but there is an element of success. Leicester City's takeover.
I would say the most wholesome takeover.
Very wholesome takeover.
Obviously, RIP to the owner, but
always
that feels like a wholesome one.
Takeover.
Where the owner had a real nice connection with the players and the fans.
And there's a respect between everyone where they were all in it together. All of these takeovers, from an Arsenal perspective anyway, they're very progressive. Arsenal's takeover wasn't very progressive, as you know. Van Persie left off the back of hearing the plans and all of that. It just, as an Arsenal fan, I just feel like, if this Newcastle have got so much money, I don't even know how they get it wrong. They could spend like 400 mil in one transfer window, get it wrong, and then go, all right, cool. Maybe financial fair play will have something to do with it, but
I think
they can get it right. And then, like, they've got rid of Steve Bruce now. Me and you were discussing if they get relegated, that's hilarious.
They get relegated, I think they will.
No, I think by getting rid of Steve Bruce, you get... Listen, let's go through the statements that Steve Bruce said. I can go and find it.
It's a sad statement.
It's a sad... Can you get on your access on your phone quickly?
Fair play, Steve Bruce. I mean, look, I think you're all right, mate. I don't think you're a cabbage head.
I do. Because you got onto Anton Ferdinand, and you know I'm not happy with that.
Steve Bruce. I'm
going to find it right now, you know. So Steve Bruce said, I think it might be my last job. It has been very, very tough to never really be wanted, to feel that people wanted me to fail, and saying that I'm a useless fat waste of space.
This is what I mean. The looks had something to do with it.
Inept cabbage head. For me, if
that's 70% looks, 30% tactics.
Bruv, you got to get rid of that guy from your club. If that's how he feels taking care of this, get rid of him and get someone with a bit more confidence. Now, that's going to put in hopefully a new injection of life within Newcastle United. If they get a good gaffer who can attract top players, January transfer window, God knows what happens. The thing that I'm scared of is Arsenal now finishing 11th.
Yeah, you lot are having a mare, mate.
Come on, fam.
Arsenal having a mare, man. I went to the game the other day and Palace just really comfortable, and it is weird seeing like empty seats. I know it's a Monday night, but
it's weird, bro.
Seeing empty seats at football for me should never really be a thing that should be happening. But we are heading in a weird time. The entitlement of fans as well. We feel like we're entitled to something. The history of clubs. But I mean, football, man. You know, and it reaches the question of what is football. You know, to you as a human being, what does it mean to you? What do you watch football for? Is it escapism from everyday problems that then you can project
onto players when onto
players and you know, is it something that you enjoy the game? Is it that you enjoy the competitiveness and the banter? Is it, you know, what are you in football for? Is it to sit in boxes and eat free food? Don't get me wrong, I love the free food life now.
But what are the players in it for? It felt
exactly. Are the players in it for like an egotistical brand thing so they can become a better brand? Is it about the football? Football, life changing. Football's changing.
I just think with the introduction of money, it's made the reasons for getting involved in football so complicated. It could just be so many different reasons. And do you know what? Maybe when I was younger, I was ignorant to the fact that was the case as well. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
But when I was yeah, maybe. But when I was younger, they did feel like there was something about it though. I think about some of the memories of younger Matthew Letizia scoring the final goal at Southampton at the Dell, and I think about Robbie Fowler going back to Liverpool, and Alan Shearer when he first signed for Newcastle United.
It felt purer.
Pure, my brother.
Even my age growing up, Serie A, Go Lazio, Channel 4 showing Italian games on midday, Sunday.
Rivaldo scoring the last minute goal against Valencia as an overhead kick, and there was an element of
romanticism.
Yes.
But is that because we're now getting older? Do the kids, because the youths growing up now, they like the plastic boots. They like Messi and Mbappe, and maybe just football changes all the time. And now it's just changing again, and it's changing as society changes. And
no, I accept everything changes. Yeah. I would never ask things to be the same, but I always like a progression of the intent. I like a progression of intent, because that way, at least, even if it looks different, I still recognize it.
Yeah.
This is the problem with football today. I don't think there's a progression of intent. I think the intent may have changed for various different people, for most people within it. And because the intent's changed within football, sometimes I just don't recognize it. I go to games, I don't seem to care. I watch games, I don't seem to care. But then I went to Peterborough the other day, spoke to Barry Fry, and I'm watching Bournemouth, Peterborough, Brooksy. I heard what happened to Brooksy recently, man. My heart goes out to you and your family. But I'm watching all of these, and I really cared.
Football, no, because football as a game, I don't think will ever die. It's one of the best things I think we have as a society. Like for me, I've made friends because recently I play football more.
Yeah.
I have a team, have a nice FC. Like every Saturday we play top of the league of the championship in Haggerston. You know what I mean? And like the game itself is beautiful, and I think we need to just remember that as a game it's beautiful, and that's why we watch it. That's why the Peterborough thing, I enjoyed it as well. I enjoyed Peterborough more than many other trips I've done in elite football. Because it has that element of like, this is the game. I think the lower you go, you're more closer to the game of football. Because all of that around isn't around it. The money isn't around, the free food. There isn't the club shop selling you £90 shirts and £120 shirts. Like, you're not as distracted. There's no mad billionaire owners. Maybe it's some guy that owns a building company. At the skip challenge in Peterborough. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's more, I think, closer to the people. The more it goes that way, you just look at it for what it is, which is a spectacle. And I think it becomes a circus, and you just view it as a circus. You might see an elephant, you might see a tiger, and you're like, "Way!"
It becomes. I think the more money you blood in a club, it becomes less about the area sometimes, and more about whatever the owners and the perception they have for it. So it becomes like this elitism. Like when you went to Peterborough, it's the local lads, and it just felt like a family. That's why I like Leicester. Leicester does feel like a family.
But they kept that root connection going, didn't they? The chakras were aligned at Leicester, I'd say, if you look at it from a more spiritual angle.
People, leave comments. Let us know what you think about the takeover. We spoke about it a little bit. It's difficult to say a lot because we're still very fresh in it.
We're still trying to gauge it
in ourselves. But we'll monitor it. We'll see it. Before we speak about Dave Chappelle, I think I should definitely go and give Don Strapsy his food. Anyway, so the Newcastle Takeover. Please leave comments and let us know what you think about the Newcastle situation and any potential takeovers and any takeovers that we haven't mentioned that were quite successful. I think the first takeover I saw that was terrible was the Lazio one.
Sorry to go again into this, one of my favorite theories. It is bread and circuses and the fall of empires. When empires are falling, when the Roman Empire basically fell, I've told you this before. The elites focused on the circuses, which were the gladiator fights. Gladiators became the most paid people in Roman society. So because everything was crumbling as a society back then, in other areas,
you have a distraction, so people are unaware.
So you pay them the fee, like they were the most paid in society back then, and then eventually the empire collapsed. So arguably, you could say that what's happening is this sort of like maybe neoliberal capitalism. We're realizing there's so many disparities, inequalities, things that maybe have gotten out of hand. We're all feeling it in many different ways, and football and it's bread and circuses. Give the people circuses, give them a bit of food, and they'll be distracted for life. So maybe that is it, and we're just reaching a sort of crescendo where we can all see it now. I don't know, but yeah.
I'll definitely tell you, football definitely has become about, I'll give you enough money to shut up. That's what football is. The more money I give you, the more you shut up.
And that as well. Money can
sense?
Be, I've been there. I hear you still.
A lot of footballers are afraid to express themselves and end up telling you a lot more stories after football than during football purely because of
the consequences, the media attention,
which I think is wrong. And I think the more money, and that's the only scared thing I'm scared about when it comes to investments as well. The more investments you have, I don't think I'm going to see many Mario Balotellis.
Someone I think that would be
less good. Mario Balotellis.
Someone that would be good to talk about this too probably be True Geordie. So Geordie, we'll try and get you on. If you'd want to come on, that would be great. Yeah, man, good to talk about. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of our podcast. A few more conversations about things happening. If you want to see more, let us know. Leave some likes as we have to, talk to our guest Don Strapsy, who's in the home.
All right, cool. So everyone, make sure like, share, and subscribe. Share with everyone, and see you later, man. Bye. Have a good time. Love you.
Have a nice.